Who was the first Chinese to realize that modern science in the Ming Dynasty had fallen far behind that of the West? And who was the one who, in that closed and isolated Chinese empire, passionately experimented in the fields of modern science? It was actually the illustrious and distinguished pioneer of Chinese modern science, Xu Guanggi. In the Roman archives of the Catholic Jesuit order, we found a 400-year-old picture. The figure on the left is the Catholic missionary Matteo Ricci. The figure on the right definitely depicts Xu Guanggi. This picture is evidence of Xu Guanggi and Matteo Ricci's association 400 years ago. It was Matteo Ricci that caused Xu Guanggi to make an extraordinary choice in his life. In 1583, Matteo Ricci arrived in ancient China to spread the gospel. It was a happy coincidence that brought Matteo Ricci and Xu Guanggi together. It was the start of a friendship that turned out to be the first instance of Chinese and Western cultural exchange in modern history. In order to prove to the Chinese that Europeans were not barbarians, Ricci often carried with him some of his precious artifacts. Aside from the Bible and paintings of Jesus' mother Mary, he had many articles that the Chinese considered mysterious and fascinating. These included an alarm clock, a spinet, globes, spheres, astrolabes, horologes, and his map of the world. The most probable reason for Xu's interest in meeting Ricci was Ricci's famous map of the world. This map was drawn by Ricci himself. In 1601, the year after Matteo Ricci and Xu Guanggi met for the first time in Nanjing, Ricci received news that created great excitement throughout the entire Jesuit community. The Chinese emperor had summoned Matteo Ricci to the Forbidden City for an audience. Now, after a 3-year separation, Xu Guanggi finally had frequent opportunities to study with Matteo Ricci. By this time, Xu Guanggi was already a devout Catholic. He assisted Ricci in publishing several books on religious doctrine. Matteo Ricci, at age 57, had lived for years in the dry, cold climate of the imperial capital. This Jesuit missionary spent the latter half of his life sharing his knowledge of modern Western science, technology, and thought with Chinese, enabling them to explore new horizons. At the same time, he was the first one to present Chinese moral and religious thought to Europe, laying the foundation for future Chinese studies. Each of these experts used his most effective methods. In the end, the predictions of the Jesuits proved most accurate. The predictions of the old members of the Astronomical Bureau were proven erroneous. This competition convinced everyone that the more advanced European Tikhonic calendrical system used by the Jesuits should replace the Chinese and Muslim systems and become the official system of the Astronomical Bureau. The tranquil atmosphere of the calendar office was suddenly disrupted by the Manchu cavalry. In the winter of 1629, the huge Manchu army successfully penetrated the Ming Empire's fortifications in several northern locations, posing a direct threat to Beijing. Xu Guanggi, who enjoyed the trust of the Chongzhen Emperor, now received a new mission. He was to command and train the troops of the imperial city.